Hello, I'm Mark Blunden and this is the Standards Tech and Science Daily podcast. Coming up, the oldest human in space, but first. Official failings over decades have been revealed in a public inquiry's damning report investigating the UK infected blood scandal that led to the deaths of more than 3,000 people. It concludes over 30,000 haemophiliacs or transfusion recipients were infected with HIV and hepatitis C over more than 2 decades. The government will respond officially to the inquiry chaired by Sir Brian Langstaff later this week, as the Treasury prepares a compensation package expected to exceed £10 billion.
I think some people, those still living, will get immense satisfaction. Those campaigners who chased this subject for 30-odd years.
That's Brendan West, who contracted hepatitis C in 1979 following a blood transfusion at a military hospital when his leg was amputated.
A number of people won't get a satisfaction, I believe, those parents of their beautiful children who died of AIDS at the hands of the state. I cannot imagine the purgatory they go through on a daily basis.
The scandal relates to contaminated US blood products sent to the UK with donated blood not screened for HIV until 1986 and not tested for hepatitis C until 1991. Labour MP Dame Diana Johnson, chair of the all-party group on contaminated blood, spoke to campaigners ahead of the report's publication.
This is such an emotional time for everybody, and the journey has been far too long and far too slow. And we know that so many are not here who should be.
Next, the government's urging people to report sightings of Asian hornets after nature groups warned of a potential surge in the supersized invasive species this summer. Chief Plant Officer Nicholas Spence is also calling for beekeepers to be extra vigilant to the insect's presence after record sightings last year. DEFRA says Asian hornets pose no greater risk from stings to human health than native hornets, but threaten honeybees and insect pollinators. It comes as Wildlife and Countryside Link, which represents 83 nature organisations, warns recent floods and weather have increased the risk of invasive species, including Japanese knotweed, giant hogweed and Himalayan balsam. Now, America's first black astronaut candidate has finally launched into space 60 years later after blasting off on a Jeff Bezos rocket.
This gentleman has waited a long time to go to space.
Ed Dwight was an Air Force pilot when President John F. Kennedy championed him as a candidate for NASA's early astronaut corps, but he wasn't picked for the 1963 class. Now 90-year-old Dwight just went through a few minutes of weightlessness with 5 other passengers aboard a Blue Origin capsule as it skimmed space on a 10-minute flight. And he called the brief launch up from West Texas a life-changing experience as Dwight broke a record for the oldest human in space. Next, a robot matchmaker is being suggested as the best way to separate the wheat from the chaff on dating apps. Whitney Wolf Hurd, who's founder of the dating app Bumble, says singletons could soon use an AI dating concierge to help improve the quality of their matches. Hurd told the Bloomberg Tech Summit that artificial intelligence to bring humans together could, as she claims, create more healthy and equitable relationships. Now, researchers say they've managed to find a way to keep breast tissue viable for at least a week outside the human body, paving the way for enhanced cancer treatments. A new study funded by the Prevent Breast Cancer charity found tissue could be preserved in a special gel solution, enabling scientists to examine it in greater detail. Experts found the preserved breast tissue maintained its structure, cell types, and ability to respond to a series of drugs in the same way as normal breast tissue. It's hoped the study, published in the Journal of Mammary Gland Biology and Neoplasia, could boost the development of new drugs to prevent and treat breast cancer without the need for testing on animals. Let's go to the ads. Stay there for more news from the world of tech and science, plus the flavour science behind mac and cheese ice cream. Why not hit follow in the meantime? Give us a rating. Welcome back. A wooden cross created as a memorial to Anglo-Irish explorer Sir Ernest Shackleton will travel more than 7,000 miles to Dundee to commemorate the 150th anniversary of his birth. The wooden cross from Shackleton's Hope Point Memorial will soon be on display at Discovery Point Museum in Dundee, where the Royal Research ship Discovery, which first carried Shackleton to Antarctica in 1901, is kept. Shackleton died in January 1922, aged 47, after suffering a heart attack on board his expedition ship The Quest in South Georgia, a UK overseas territory in the southern Atlantic Ocean. The Hope Cross was constructed at a nearby whaling station by crew members. And finally, as the weather heats up, would you fancy a cooling scoop of mac and cheese ice cream? Or how about ranch dressing flavour? A New York-based ice cream chain has revealed why customers are swapping vanilla and strawberry for wilder tastes.
We sometimes launch really unusual and surprising flavors because they work really well with the core of what we do. So an example of that would be the Kraft mac and cheese or a red currant ice cream.
That's Ben Van Leeuwen, CEO of Brooklyn-based Van Leeuwen Ice Cream.
The weirder they are, the more attention they get. But when we develop a really unique shock flavor, it has to be two things. A, it has to be eatable and good. B, it has to be distinctly and genuinely shocking in taste.
And it's apparently Gen Z consumers who are fueling the appetite for weird and wonderful flavours, often inspired by social media trends. Although Tech and Science Daily has to ask why regarding a resurgence in interest for gravy-flavoured soda. You're up to date. Come back at 4 p.m. for the latest news, interviews and analysis from the Standard podcast here in London, and we'll be back on Tuesday at 1 p.m. See you then.